Good morning, my friends. I'm a little bit hoarse. A little bit hoarse this Monday morning. It's always when I feel a little hoarse. You see, I don't talk before I start recording, so I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. So I feel a little bit hoarse. I do a little bit of talking to myself, and I had a feeling. I just knew that my horse was going to be a little raspy. My voice was going to be a little raspy. But we're going to dive into AMXbooks 626, reading The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. It's a tremendous read. Let's get down to business. Give me 1 second here. Bring up the recorders. Quick reminder: AMXbooks is every Monday through Friday. AMX Kids will be coming out tomorrow. AMX Talks will be coming out on Thursday. And AMX Weekly will be coming out on Saturday. You know what that is, my friends? That's a whole week. That's a whole stinking systematic week of learning to you on a silver platter. Let's rock and roll. 1, 2, 3, go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to AMXbooks 626, reading the book, The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. A tremendous, tremendous read, and it is where we at Monday, December 3rd, already December. I'm obviously a little hoarse. I apologize. Let's get down to brass tacks. I want to throw this out there, too. You know, it's Monday morning. I was tired. I'm a little sick. My voice is all raspy, and it's easy to get off course. We have so many opportunities to get off course, but you know why I make AMX? And AMXbooks, and AMX Talks, and AMX Weekly, and AMX Kids, because it helps keep me on track. It helps keep me on track. It helps me keep moving the needle forward, and it will help you, too, keep moving the needle forward if you just commit to listening. AMXbooks is 8 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. That's it, 8 minutes to get your day off to the right start, to put the right mindset in your brain. I know, because I'm doing it for myself as well. Let's dive into the book, The Boys in the Boat. So I want to talk a little bit about wisdom and guidance today. And I mentioned Coach Al Olbrickson, who's the head varsity coach. I believe I've mentioned already Tom Bullis, who's the freshman coach, whom I'll mention later on. But today I want to talk about a guy named George Pocock. So George Pocock is, if you can think of a Mr. Miyagi, okay, that's like what George Pocock is. He has an actual tangible thing that he does, but he also brings this wisdom and this additive to the University of Washington program and to rowing in general. See, Pocock doesn't just make boats for the University of Washington, he makes boats for the whole country. So it's an interesting dynamic that exists here, but he lives and his boat shop is at the University of Washington. I'm going to talk about a little bit about him today, because to me, when I read these words and I say these words, it just gives my soul a source of comfort, and it reminds me where, like AMXbooks does, it reminds me of where I want to go. So George Pocock was, quote, all but born with an oar in his hands. He came from a long line of boat builders, and this idea of wisdom and mastery and excellence was in him from the beginning. He observed it in his father and his grandfather in the long line of boat builders. It says, quote, he was inclined by nature to do whatever he attempted on the highest possible level, to master each and every tool he laid his hands on in his father's shop, to learn how to row the most efficient stroke, to build the most elegant and best performing racing shells possible. Quote, he had a, quote, deep commitment to grace, precision, and what would turn out to be a lifelong pursuit of the ideal. A lifelong pursuit of the ideal. When I read that, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, if that's not what I'm after, a lifelong pursuit of the ideal. Think about that for a minute. Reflect on your own life. Go back to a point in time where you still had that lifelong pursuit of the ideal. You had that idea, that ideal. You had it in your head, and it was cemented, and there was no doubt that's where I'm going. And then ask yourself, when did I lose that? I'm committed. I, as the Spaniard, speaking here on December 3rd, 2018, I'm committed to never, ever, ever, ever lose that lifelong pursuit of the ideal. Because to me, this idea of wisdom and mastery and excellence, this idea of grace and precision, to me, that's what it's about. You have one opportunity, you have one chance, you have one setting, you have one parameter within which to live your life. And this ideal pursuit, this grace and this precision, to me, that's what it's about. And when I read these books, it's a reminder to me I do it to produce a show. I do it for myself. I do it for the good of my children in the coming years as they grow and evolve and they can listen to these shows. But it's up to you. I'm going to talk a little bit about that decision. It's up to you. This idea of mastery, this idea of excellence, this idea of every piece of energy, everything that you do, every action that you take, it's up to us. Is it going to contribute 0% to mastery and excellence? Is it going to contribute 100% to mastery and excellence? Is it somewhere in the middle, 50, 75, 78, 86? Remember, success is negotiable. It's always negotiable, but you've got to decide what you're going to pay. And then it goes on to say about Coach Pocock, quote, over the years, George Pocock learned much about the hearts and souls of young men. So this guy, right, this guy is observant. He builds the boats. He builds the shells for these young men to race on. But he's also there as a coach and advisor, as a Mr. Miyagi type being, right? So he observes and he thinks and he processes and then he teaches, he conveys to these boys. He tries to get in their minds. If you've ever had the opportunity to be around a great coach, you know that great coach doesn't just teach you a wrestling move or a right cross or a left jab or a left hook or a round kick. They get in your soul. They touch your soul. They understand you as a human, what makes you tick. And it says, quote, over the years, George Pocock learned much about the hearts and souls of young men. Listen to this. He observed the fragility of confidence and the redemptive power of trust. The fragility of confidence and the redemptive power of trust. Fragility of confidence. They don't have it made. They weren't born with an iron shell around their mind and around their hearts and around their bodies. They are normal people. They have to fight for their confidence. They do not sit atop a throne of glory and rainbows and where doubt never even exists. It's there. You've got to understand it's there. One of my favorite nuggets that I took from one of my interviews is with Kerry Collat, one of the best wrestlers to come out of Pennsylvania, and one of the best wrestlers in the history of the sport, where he said, of course I have self-doubt. I just learned to segment it. I learned to filter it, to get it out of my mind, to compartmentalize it. He said, I'd wake up every day and first thought is, am I good enough to win an Olympic gold medal? Understand that's the way it is for, quote, them. They haven't escaped it. I remember when I was a kid wrestling, okay, I'd wrestle during the year, scholastic style, then I'd wrestle freestyle in the summertime. And there was a friend slash competitor of mine. We were fighting for the same thing, but we grew to become friends. His name was Jesse Reed. And I remember we were wrestling one time in the summer. And in the summertime, you generally only practice 2 or 3 times a week, and then you wrestle on Sundays. That was freestyle wrestling. There was a little bit less pressure, a little bit more fun. And I remember saying to him at the state tournament, I said, man, Jesse, I don't know if I'm going to I don't know if I'm going to get tired or not. We've only been training twice a week. And he said, well, it's pretty simple. If you think you're going to get tired, you will. If you don't, then you won't. And I was probably, 15, 16 when he said that to me, but it stuck with me to the point where I'm 37 telling you about it today. This idea of the fragility of confidence. If you think you will, you will. If you think you won't, you won't. And the redemptive power of trust. These guys fought for it. They fought for it together. They believed in each other. They were a team. They knew they were all giving their all to this one common goal. That's the redemptive power of trust. Collectively, they might have doubted themselves, but together as a group, they trusted and did not doubt the group. And the last thing I want to point out here about Joe's youth. So his stepmother booted him out of the house. He came back. He lived with his brother. He lives with his aunt, lives with neighbors. He's all over the place, getting rejected. But he made a decision. He said, quote, he would never again let himself depend on them, nor his family, nor anyone else for his sense of who he was. For his sense of who he was. It was coming from inside. Quote, he would survive and he would do it on his own. He could survive on his own, quote, if he kept his wits about him, if he kept his eyes open for opportunities, and if he didn't allow his life to be dictated by other people's notions of what he should do. It ain't easy. But that's the way, my friends. You have got to decide. AMXbooks 626. If you'd like to help support the show, patreon.com/Charlie Spaniard. CharlieSpaniard.com for my speaking programs, reviews on iTunes. I love you, folks. Thanks for being here, and please come back tomorrow for AMXbooks 627. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, my. If you're still there watching, patreon.com/Charlie Spaniard. I know a few of you are thinking to yourself, I don't know. I think so. I don't think so. I do watch them a lot, but I don't know if I want to actually support it monetarily. But guess what? For as little as a buck a month, that's it. You know, I'm like, I'm going to be doing this no matter what, right? But the support via Patreon will make it a lot easier and a lot less stressful and enable me to learn and teach more cool, awesome things. And from my heart to yours, I sincerely appreciate it. And I'll be back tomorrow for AMXbooks 627, and I hope you join me. Don't forget, youtube.com/Charlie Spaniard. Everything's being uploaded there. I have all my AMX weeklies. I have all my AMX kids. And little by little by little, we're getting the AMX books. I'll see you there, youtube.com/Charlie Spaniard.